Hey, Nebraska fans. Nebraska has had a historic season, and that has continued into March. The best way to enjoy the Huskers' postseason run stress-free is by contacting tax and business consultants. So while you're cheering for the Huskers to make some noise in the tournament, they've got your businesses back. With locations in Blair, Columbus, and Lyons, they've got you covered with expert tax planning, bookkeeping, and payroll services. Whether you're a small business owner or managing your personal taxes, let them take care of the numbers so you can focus on what really counts, like Nebraska's title chase. Visit www.taxandbusinessconsultants.com today and score a win for your financial future.
Baseline, no shot for him. Gives it over to Nickel. 4 in the shot clock. In the paint. Shot on the way, no good. Rebound, Nebraska. Huskers have it. 9 seconds left to go. What across the timeline to Price to Frager. Layup. Yes! Yes! It's got 2.2. It's 2 point.
Timeouts. Half court heave. Oh! And Nebraska is on to the Sweet 16.
4-seed Nebraska accomplishes what this program has chased for lifetimes, securing their first ever NCAA tournament win on their way to a Sweet 16 berth, defeating Vanderbilt in Oklahoma City 74-72. Hello, all of you beautiful, beautiful Nebraska basketball fans, and welcome into this very, very special lifelong chasing edition of the Scarlet Shoot-Around podcast, presented as always by our title sponsor, Tax and Business Consultants. Make sure to visit them this tax season at www.taxandbusinessconsultants.com. Mike, this is the golden carrot at the end of the road that everybody was waiting for. This is the princess at the end of Mario. This is the light at the end of the tunnel. This is heaven at the end of your life. The number one goal for Nebraska basketball has finally been accomplished.
Yeah, voice is still a little hoarse from this weekend. Cheered my voice out of my body, apparently. And I'm sure the Fuzzy's margarita didn't help, but no, super, super proud of this team and the fan base. Really impressed with the turnout, obviously, the entire weekend in Oklahoma City. I saw a thing that Nebraska fans set the record for the Paycom Center based on their decibel meter, 115, Blake. I mean, incredible in that aspect. I just want to tip the cap again to the players of this team. Got jumped out to an early lead, which is not what they do, but they needed it in this one. Vandy obviously came back. That's a really good basketball team, and Vanderbilt got up 5 late, but the Huskers didn't throw in the towel, didn't give up, continued to claw back. And then, the last point from this whole weekend, Blake, is just the fact that, I don't want to throw around the C word for a team that's a 4 seed, right? Like, that doesn't really make sense. But this, without a doubt, and obviously I'm biased, is the best story in college basketball right now. This is up there with like a Fordham run or something, right? Like, nobody expected this. Nobody, thought that they could do it once, let alone twice. Let's not forget that Troy was like the second most popular upset pick. So, yeah, they've been doubting us, but the Huskers just continue to roll, continue to win, and then we'll obviously touch on it later in the show, but their next opponent, Blake, sets the stage even bigger. Like, the story writers are cooking for this NCAA tournament, in my opinion.
And amongst people that you thought would maybe affect Nebraska's chances of getting to the Sweet 16, everybody knows who he is, but not many thought that a freshman from Lincoln, Nebraska could have stepped up the way he did in Braden Frager, who went for 15 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists on 6 of 11 shooting, 1 of 3 from deep, 2 of 3 from the line, while adding 1 steal. Mike, he has averaged 14 points over his 2 games in Oklahoma City while hitting the biggest shot in Husker history. Braden Frager commented on that moment in the postgame.
I think all 5 guys ran at Price. I think everybody expected him to shoot that, and I was calling for the ball, and it was all him. He made the unselfish play, and I just had a wide open lane to the rim, and I went and made a play.
And he mentioned Price Sanford, who went for 15 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists on 5 of 9 shooting, 3 of 6 from deep, 2 of 3 from the line, while adding a steal of his own. Mike, Price Sanford has averaged 19 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 assists over his 2 games in Oklahoma City, going 10 of 18 from beyond the arc. And while he did have low volume here against Vanderbilt, Mike, he was very highly efficient.
Credit to Vandy. They obviously watched how Big Ten teams guarded Price, and they took a page out of that book. They were very physical with him along the perimeter. And the refs, the way the game was called, they allowed that to happen for the most part. Down the stretch, they called it a little bit tighter, which I'm sure was to the chagrin of some Vandy fans, since Price was able to get to the line and get some big points that way. But yeah, he's been fantastic for the Huskers so far this postseason. Obviously, we all know what he did against Troy. But Blake, the return of the king, right, in rink mass. Talk about a guy that had a great weekend in OKC against Vandy. He had 13 points on a really efficient 5 of 10 and 3 of 6 from beyond the arc while pulling down 5 rebounds. Did not have a single turnover with 4 assists. It's really funny to look back on the end of the season and us, I hope Rink can break out of his slump. We really will need him. Well, he's done nothing but answer that call to this point in 2 amazing games in OKC. And if he continues to play this way, this is what gets the Huskers offense to the level that we saw it earlier in the season. This is how they reach their peak, is by getting Rink back into form. And if he plays like this is a team that truly can beat anybody.
Like you mentioned, Ringmast had an incredible stay in Oklahoma City, going for 11 assists over those 2 games here in Oklahoma City. But Mike, we cannot talk about the front court without talking about the unbelievable contribution from Berke Buchtenjel, who went for 12 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist on 5 of 6 from the field, a perfect 2 of 2 from deep. Did miss his lone free throw attempt, but Mike, Berke played one of his best games of his career with a box score plus minus of plus 13.2 in this game. His offensive box score plus minus of plus 8.9 is his best mark since December 30th against New Hampshire. And there was no better time for the Turkish forward to pull out, again, his best game of the season than in a game that propelled Nebraska to the Sweet 16. Sam Hoiberg went for 8 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists on 3 of 6 shooting, 2 of 2 from the free throw line while adding a steal. He played a team-high 37 minutes, and his 6-to-1 assist-to-turnover ratio against the number 1 turnover defense in the SEC, Mike, helped Nebraska again accomplish what this program has never seen before.
Vanderbilt's perimeter defense was very impressive. I thought Duke Miles and Tyler Tanner were really good. They combined for 5 steals, Blake, especially Tanner with 4 of his own. So good to see Sam, 6-to-1 when facing that pressure was really, really important, I think. As a whole, the Huskers kind of struggled in the turnover margin as they had 12 as a team. Frager led the team with 3, but then Jamarcus Lawrence had 2. On the night, Jamarcus had 9 points, going 4 of 6, missed his lone 3-point attempt while adding 1 point from the free throw line. He also pulled down 1 rebound and had 1 assist to the 2 aforementioned turnovers. But on the other side, as I mentioned, Vandy's perimeter defense, Jamarcus did a great job of his own, adding 2 steals, and he actually led the team in plus-minus, Blake, in plus 11. A lot of that, again, probably due to his reduced minutes share at only 20 and a half minutes due to some foul trouble. But when he was in, he was really good for the Huskers in this one.
Yeah, great game from Lawrence. Again, went for his 9 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist on an efficient 4 of 6 shooting. But as you mentioned, only played 20 minutes due to heavy foul trouble there in the first half. Vanderbilt's Tyler Tanner went for a ridiculous 27 points, 2 rebounds, 4 assists on 9 of 21 from the field. 3 of 10 from deep, 6 of 9 from the line while adding 4 steals. And the first team all-SEC selection really tore Nebraska up on defense. But he could not overcome the offensive explosion for Nebraska. As we've talked at length, Mike, about Nebraska's recent offensive struggles over the past month, those being fueled by the physical defense played against them. They came out of their shell, though, against Vanderbilt, notching their highest adjusted offensive efficiency mark since January 17th at Northwestern. And the best part, they did it without a high-volume effort from Price Sanford, as his 9 field goal attempts ties for his 4th lowest total of the season. Nebraska had 4 scores over 12 points, and that is when this team is at their best. That said, Mike, tighter officiating in the NCAA tournament sure doesn't hurt either.
No, it doesn't. And again, Price didn't necessarily get the benefit of that tighter officiating, at least early in this one. Again, had a huge call down the stretch to get a couple free points, but like you touched on, 4 players over 12 points, maybe the shock being Berke Buchtenjel and him doing it super efficiently. But you're spot on, Blake. That's when this team is at their best, is when it is distributed scoring. And we saw it a lot. You mentioned Price only had 9 attempts, but I can count off the top of my head, just looking back on the game, 3, 4 maybe times, a guy was standing wide open under the hoop because 2 guys are going to Price off of a screen, right? And so that's stuff that won't show up in the box score, but that's the gravity, if you want to use that term, that Price brings, where he draws so much attention on the defensive end that teams are prone to making a mistake, making a bad rotation. That opens up opportunities for other players, and that's how you get that distributed scoring. Particularly efficient. Again, Berke, efficient. Rink Mass shooting 50%. That's good. Braden Frager, over 50%, 6 of 11. That's really good. So A lot of that is, again, due to the fact that defenses have to focus so much on Price. So even when he's not getting shot attempts, he's still managing to affect the game on that end of the floor.
And despite the incredible offensive explosion, Mike, from Nebraska, they did overcome the data. As coming into this game, Nebraska's keys were to take care of the ball and use their size advantage to win the glass. Well, the Huskers went 0 for 2 in those goals, losing the turnover battle 12-8 and the offensive rebounding battle 11-5. That said, Nebraska only lost the second chance points margin and the points off turnover margin by 1 apiece. So they did minimize the damage in that respect. Fred Hoiberg talked about the team's performance in the postgame.
But our guys got off to a great start. I thought that was very important. We did a good job getting our fans into the game, and then we withstood their run. They went on a big run. We knew they would at some point in the game, and as we've talked going into this tournament, if you want to advance, it's all about how you handle adversity. Really proud of our guys, and that last shot, man, it just took my breath away. We're looking forward to next week, getting the opportunity to continue to compete.
And Mike, as Fred said, you have to appreciate the resiliency of the Huskers in this game, but Nebraska cannot lose in those two areas of turnovers and rebounding against Iowa if they want to continue advancing here in March.
Spot on, and I'll add another stat line that they lost that typically has spelled doom for the Huskers. They did not win the second half, Blake. They got outscored 40-35. As we all know, this is a team that, again, has thrived on second half runs. We've touched on with the analogy of being like a boa constrictor or a python, slowly squeezing opponents. We didn't see that in this one. Vandy's a really good team, and they were able to make some runs in the second half. And like I said, actually outscored the Huskers. So the fact that the Huskers turned the ball over more, got out rebounded, and did not win the second half, and were still able to pull this one out. Credit to the entire team for staying the course. Again, didn't throw in the towel, didn't get down when things weren't going their way. Shout out to the coaching staff for switching it up and going to the 1-3-1. I thought that was a huge change that needed to happen, and I think that shored up a lot of the fouling issues that we saw. And again, something that we haven't touched on a lot, I know maybe in past seasons, we haven't seen a lot of zone so far this season. And especially when we talk about the importance of rebounding, Blake, I felt like there really wasn't a drop-off. Obviously, they didn't win the offensive rebounding battle, but I didn't think that going to a zone gave Vandy more opportunities for that. I thought the team as a collective rebounded very well when going to the zone, and that's nice to have something like that in the back pocket just to throw teams off. And again, I thought it was really important that they did that down the stretch, and it really threw Vandy's offense off.
And the rebounding effort was a very concerted team effort as you look up and down the stat lines. Frager had 5, Sanford with 5, Mast with 5, Berke with 4, Hoiberg with 4. So up and down the roster, again, a very team effort, which again is, I think, when Nebraska is at their best, when they're getting those team-wide contributions as opposed to just one person doing the heavy lifting. But Mike, when you talk about Nebraska's season, and especially the small time in Oklahoma City, it was nothing short of a dream, as the Husker fans that invaded Oklahoma City were treated to not only Nebraska's first NCAA tournament win, but their first Sweet 16 berth in what many have called the game of the tournament. Nebraska fans created one of the most incredible tournament scenes in history, setting the Paycom Center decibel record at 115 decibels. And Mike, as if the plot wasn't thick enough for Nebraska, they will now take on 9-seed Iowa in a rubber match for an Elite 8 berth. The Huskers could end their rival season while putting themselves one game away from an absolutely unthinkable appearance in the Final Four.
Yeah, I mean, how many times football, we think about it a lot, but even basketball, like, lost to them last year to not make the conference tournament. How many times has Nebraska's athletic season ended at the hands of the Hawkeyes since they joined the Big Ten? And now a golden opportunity to flip the script on that. I'm sure the arena in Houston is going to be well represented with Husker fans. I've seen on Twitter plenty of people that are able to make the trip, plenty that unfortunately can't go back-to-back weekends as it hurts the wallet a bit. But as I said, I'm sure it's going to be an incredible atmosphere. I think a lot of fans, even neutral fans, I had OKC natives sitting behind me in the second game, and they became Husker fans. I wouldn't be surprised if the same thing happens for the team in Houston. So it'll be amazing. Again, the script writers for this, Huskers get their first win in blowout fashion, get their second win and their first trip to the Sweet 16 in a rim out on a final heave. And now on top of that, they play one of their biggest rivals in the Sweet 16. Unfortunately, Creighton, or maybe fortunately, Creighton didn't make the tournament this year. They have to struggle in the crown. We all know what that's like. So good luck to them, I suppose, in that tournament. But in the NCAA tournament, the Huskers are going to face, again, probably their biggest conference rival. There's going to be a lot of toxicity and venom in this one. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to be a great game. Both games, as you mentioned, this is a rubber match. Both games before this, absolute rock fights. That game in Iowa City, I think, was probably one of the worst games the Huskers played. Iowa really dragged them down and forced the Huskers to play their game. The return trip at PBA obviously kind of gave up a run and let them get to overtime, and then had the heroics in overtime to win that one at home. But it's been two really good games between these two teams, and I don't see this one being any different, Blake.
Wrapping up Nebraska's historical trip in Oklahoma City to beat Vanderbilt, they shoot 56% from the field on 29 of 52, 47% from beyond the arc on 9 of 19, 70% from the free throw line on 7 of 10, while notching 16 assists to 12 turnovers. The Commodores shoot 41% from the field, 35% from deep on 13 of 37. A miserable 58% from the free throw line on 11 of 19. Very uncharacteristic, as well as they're the fourth best free throw shooting team in the country. And they notched 15 assists to 8 turnovers against Nebraska's defense. Mike, there was no hate, there was no disappointment, there was nothing but pure jubilation in the post-game tweets, and we will get to all that excitement on the other end of the break.
Being charged with a DUI or criminal matter is one of the most stressful moments anyone can face. Your license, career, and reputation may all be on the line, but you don't have to go it alone. At the law office of William M. Kurtenbach, we understand what's at stake. Our attorney has years of experience handling DUI and complex criminal cases, protecting clients' rights, challenging evidence, and fighting for the best possible outcome. Every case deserves a strong defense. Don't wait until it's too late. Call the law office of William M. Kurtenbach today, serving Platte and surrounding counties. Call 402-249-5154 today or visit lawofficeofwmk.com.
You are listening to the Scarlet Shoot-Around Podcast.
Welcome back into the Scarlet Shoot-Around Podcast, presented as always by our title sponsor, Tax and Business Consultants. Make sure to visit them online this upcoming tax season at www.taxandbusinessconsultants.com. This segment, though, Mike, sponsored by our friends over at the law office of WMK. And I tell you what, Mike, it was a sight to behold after Nebraska clinched their first ever Sweet 16, as there were maybe some intoxicated fans jumping into a river to celebrate. Honestly, if I wasn't part of this podcast and have what little reputation we have, I probably would have been in the river myself, but we did not. We refrained. That said, if any of you are listening did jump into the river and need some maybe legal representation from some trespassing charges, or God forbid you drove home, got pulled over, we can't necessarily expedite your court case to Platte County, but somehow, some way, I know some people that can help you.
Yeah, like Blake said, I'm not sure if that court case would get shipped over to Nebraska for you, but if not, if you're just looking for some legal advice, we know who to contact, and that's Law Office of WMK.
Make sure to visit them online again at www.lawofficeofwmk.com. Okay, Mike, let's get into it. Our favorite segment, we call it Let's Hear From You, where we share tweets at the final buzzer of every game, asking Huskers fans what their thoughts were on each win and each loss. But before we get into that, we want to welcome in our very special guests from the Nebrasketball Pod, who have gone through hell and high water to get to this point. Unfortunately, they handed the baton off just in time for the Huskers to get good. Lucky for us, unlucky for them. But want to welcome them into the show. Kell and Sutt, how are you guys doing today?
Incredible. I mean, I don't know. I don't have the words to describe a whole lot, which I guess is the point of a podcast. But I'm going to start with incredible and full circle moment. I went back and listened to the preview pod we did to start the season, in between, probably before Purdue or maybe after Purdue. And, you know, we got the question, what brings the pod back? And we're like, win the game, win the tournament game. And we're back. And so, you know, I know we all called it. We said, yeah, this is the year. It's getting done. It's getting done. We obviously couldn't have dreamed half of this. So to have been from there to here, I can't think of a better way to see you two boys. So I am so psyched to be here and get to talk to all of you. I'm used to just saying you sad sickos out there, but you happy sickos out there listening to Scarlet Shoot-Around. Psyched to be here.
Gentlemen, thank you. Thank you to not just you guys having us on, but thank you for the Huskers that made this possible to us, guys. This is for all of those Husker hoops players for however many years we've been following it that weren't able to get across the finish line And these guys finally did. And we got to share it down in Oklahoma City with however many thousand of our best friends, our new best friends that you're hugging random people that you had never seen before. And I always thought and envisioned what this moment would be like, what it would mean to you, because you're dreaming for so long. You have to have something to get you through those cold winters where you lose 12 straight games. And so the dreaming of that moment has been in my head for as long as I can remember being a Husker Hoop sicko. And even what I dreamed up in my wildest fantasies, this somehow surpassed it tenfold. It was ecstasy on top of just pure relief, adrenaline, and getting to do that with the type of crowd that was there, the games that we got to see, just super special. And as you can tell from my voice, I'm still hurting from it, but would do it over and over again, and we'll be reliving that for a long, long time.
Yeah, I got to say, Mike, I think we probably replayed that final sequence over our speaker in our Airbnb probably 100 times, maybe. Something that was so memorable and something that I'm sure Nebraska fans across not just the state, the country, but the world, international brand that Nebraska basketball is, are going to celebrate this for a long, long time. But some of them chose to go into our comment section. We're going to start with Husker football enthusiast who simply said GBR in all caps. John Sheridan says, crying, screaming, throwing up. Brett Kramer says, this is the greatest day of my life. Justin Olson took a screenshot of something he said after the FIU game on November 8th, saying, anyone else just buy Sweet 16 tickets to watch our beloved Skurs or just me? And I tell you what, Justin, if you were actually crazy enough to go buy those tickets back on November 8th, you saved yourself hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And Nebrasketball Connor says, I'll be able to tell my grandkids I was there. And Mike, that's what this is all about. You know, the people that got to experience Oklahoma City and everything that transpired this weekend obviously have a core memory for the rest of their life. But even the people that hung back in the Haymarket, the people that watched at home in their garage, the people that were even watching alone or listening to Kent in the car or whatever it may be, everybody has a separate individualistic memory of everything, again, that transpired in Oklahoma City, especially that first tournament win. And those are things that they will never, ever forget the rest of their life.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's not just the people in the arena. Obviously, much like Sutt, my voice is not feeling 100%. For those that listen can probably tell, but being able to be there was awesome. But it's for everyone, right? Like it's not just for the people that are able to go. Luckily enough, we were able to be there, but it's for every Nebrasketball fan that's gone through, like the guy said, through hard times, through some dark, long winters. I can't tell you how many edits I've seen of like Keisei Tominaga and James Palmer Jr. since we people that, again, were unable to get across the finish line, but were the building blocks necessary to make what OKC meant. Super special. Interested to see what the Nebrasketball Pod guys think about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny thinking about, we have so much because we have the two games, we kind of have the whole weekend and thinking about like the crying, like specifically hearing the crying. So I'm here to say, Sutt said, like, we've pictured it for so long. We've talked about it for so long. You've dreamed about it for so long. And I always figured I'd cry. Like I always figured, I've never really cried at a sporting event, but I always figured like there's just so much more wrapped up in this for me. It was not, just like, I'm so glad this group of, I always want to say 18 to 22 year olds with rank. It's like maybe up to like 27, 28, 29. But, it's just, I knew. I'm like, this is more. This is me and Sutt. This is the pod. This is the people we know. This is everybody at the Bob. It's just so much more. It's this life thing of like, you don't know why you keep thinking something will change, but you don't give up on it and it changes. And I knew there'd be so much wrapped up into it. And so Thursday, the crying was this big, joyous release. Like that crowd felt like Husker hoops. Like it was hoops, 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 like you could just feel that. You knew the people who were there for so much, for all those days, for all those players before us. And then the dream kind of stopped, it's like that was it. Like, what more could I want? Like, okay, I guess we'll stay here in OKC, but I never got further. Sutt and I kept saying the line. We never got this far in our dreams. So now what do we do? The dog catches the car or whatever. It's like, what are we supposed to do now? And the tears Saturday, man, it was insane. It was everything. It was bigger than that. Like you said, Blake, that felt like you looked around at people and you're like, people have been searching for this for, I don't know, 25 years. For this feeling of traveling, of being together, of getting it, man. And I have never experienced anything in my life of that crowd. afterward. And the amount of people, I mean, Sutt said the crying changed. Like I was just explaining to my wife earlier, I'm like, I don't know that I can like capture to you what that was like to just walk and lock eyes with somebody. And you just knew the second you saw somebody after that game Saturday, it was like, yep, here it is. And it was not just like bro hug, 2 taps and walk it away. It was like, hold me, brother, deep in your shoulder. Like, and you just kept going. And it just was, the crying was special. It was special. And so, react to GBR and crying better than that.
Well, I love this idea with the tweets thing, because it is, everybody's going to have a story. Everybody's going to have their moment, their reaction, what was going on in their head, their vantage point, and how they saw it all unfold. But it's for both games. It's so true. It's like the first game on Thursday, it was trying to almost contain yourself and hold yourself back from, okay, I know we're probably going to win this, but I'm not going to let myself get to that point yet until I like know it's there. So I can have that true moment of like, yes, we actually did it. And when they start pulling the players, and we were sitting right behind their bench and getting to see them all come off and the emotions that they had, that just came right to me, and feeling all that. And then the rest of that day was just incredible. But there was something about that second win where it just felt like, I don't know if it's more eyeballs on it, more attention, the energy was ramped up, or just the fact of the closeness of the game and the arena wanting blood. But there was something at the end of that was just this release of, we did something collectively here and are a part of that. And I think even you could probably feel that from a few hundred miles away back in the Haymarket when you see all those videos, or people at home. Husker Hoops put out a cool reaction video of everybody in their living room jumping up and down and going crazy. So special. And for you guys, getting everybody wanting to hop on and reply to you guys online and get their feelings out towards you guys, that shows what you guys have meant. And you've been a part of each of those guys' experience to get to this place. It's cool to see that come full circle for everybody that cares about this as much as you do.
Appreciate you saying the kind words about us. But again, we wouldn't be here if you guys didn't carry the torch for probably one of the coldest, darkest decades of Nebraska basketball history, right? So again, shout out to you guys for getting it all started before me and Blake even had a thought of doing something like this. Not only people in Nebraska, shout out my wife who was watching the Pets. She said she scared the Pets at like 11 a.m. by celebrating Frager's layup. So it goes all the way up to Wisconsin. And I'm sure we got some Japanese fans that start watch the team because of Keisei were probably celebrating too over there. So it is worldwide. It's really, really cool. David Bliss said, I'm 71 years old and I just got 2 years older fast. I've never seen anything like this in all my years. This one is for the whole state, the firefighters, for those affected by the prairie fires. Again, a good thing to remember that. There are things bigger than basketball, but hopefully this type of weekend can help bring some relief to those people. Drew Urban said, outside of the Cubs winning the World Series and Nebraska beating Miami and Florida to win natties, this is the biggest win I've seen as a sports fan. Is this real life? So proud of this team. Fred's adjustment to the 1-3-1 saved the day. Props to Vanny. Tanner is a stud. What a game. Zachary Jamar said, I'm 47. I've been blessed. I've attended the 94 and 95 college football natties. I was in Oklahoma City tonight. The 94 game was so amazing, so special. The Schlesinger touchdown was an unimaginable feeling. Tonight's victory was eerily similar. We accomplished something I didn't know was possible. Heavenly. And 402 Nation said, the most proud I've ever been as a Husker fan. The best game ever. And it's something that we kind of already touched on, especially with the crying. Just the release. And even reading those tweets, I just got goosebumps again, just reliving it in my head the whole weekend. Again, the Troy win, obviously amazing to be able to empty the benches, but to win in a fashion. I mean, very close March Madness games have always been cool. It's really stressful when your team's involved, but the payoff at the end is, it's an absolute expression of pure euphoria. I would love to never have to deal with that again, but if the Huskers do, that just means we're back in the dance, right? And that's a good thing when you think about it.
Yeah, a lot of people talking about their experiences and how memorable this is, and it's really hard for people outside of this fan base, I think, to contextualize what this win really meant to this fan base, because you're talking about, Mike, myself, Kell, and Sutt, who have followed this program for maybe the better part of 20-ish years on the high end and have never experienced, any kind of success, really. I mean, unless you want to talk about a crown win, which obviously means something, but nothing to this degree, right? And having this kind of release for not even us, but you're talking about fans that have followed this program for, 50, 60 years, and players that have tried and tried and tried over the course of multiple coaches, multiple tenures, multiple decades, over a century, trying to get this thing done, just win one single tournament game. It is something that you truly cannot understand unless you've just been a part of it. And I almost feel bad for the fans that are new to this and have followed it for 1 to 2 years since they last made the tournament in 24. Like, they're obviously jubilant, but they're not even experiencing a tenth of what people like us are feeling, the emotion that all goes into that. So kind of like Kell said, to have everybody there celebrating in the Paycom Center together, taking over Oklahoma City. I mean, I remember after getting all the media stuff done, I headed over back to my media seat when they were taking down all the signage and stuff like that on the court. And I just had to sit there and put on some emotional music and just soak it all in for 5 minutes. Just look at the gym and think, man, like, the people that have seen the darkest of times got to experience one of the most memorable things that they will ever have in their life tonight. And to be able to, be even just a little part of that journey with so many of you is so special to us. And, like kind of Mike said, we would not be here without Kell and Sutt. And Kell, obviously you guys deserve a ton of the praise, but when you talk about how memorable this is, how can you guys contextualize it?
I mean, yeah, it's so, there's so much in that. I think you bring it up as a really good point. We would argue about this a lot, about what does this mean for other people? And I kind of was a little bit on this train of, I was like, you know what? I kind of hope they send us to Buffalo, send us to Mars. I was like, I want to be with the real ones. I always pictured this thing. I said, picture this thing so many times. And it was all the people who you've seen on Twitter. And it was the people who, you're like, I want to be with some people who had to grind through this thing. And you end up getting OKC and you realize, man, you look back at the whole picture and what you thought it would lead to. And the Troy game, it had some of the like, okay, I thought it could be this. I thought it could be this. But even then, I remember thinking, I never could have thought there would have been a team like this. Like, I used to think I loved teams. I used to think I loved James Pollard Jr. I do. I used to think I loved Ryan Anderson, and I do. But, like, you couldn't draw up in a lab this story. We talked about it in our first podcast. All of us mentioned, oh, man, and gosh, this story this year of the, Sam and the coach's kid and the blah, blah, blah. But, like, I don't even think we quite realized the arc of Sam as a redshirt freshman on that McGowan's Verge team. And the arc, man, of what we'd been through to, think back to Tim. For Tim to go in year 2, and we all, Lucy put the damn football down again. And we said, oh my God, in year 2, this gregarious, tweeting, funny guy, we beat Wisconsin, no sit Sunday. Yeah, we lost to Baylor, but like, we're there. Whole team's coming back next year. It just started like, and then not only was it gone, it was never even sniffed it, man. Never even sniffed it, and ended in the worst way. We saw Isaac Copeland. He sat near us at the game, and we were joking. We're like, man, this would have been the top 10 things we would have thought if you said, man, you're going to watch a game with Cope near, and he came up and dapped us up at the end of the game. And it was kind of just like, no offense to Cope because we still love him, but it just like was an afterthought of the weekend because it was like everything else was so crazy. But you think about, we remember when he hurt his knee in that stupid Ohio State game, and you go thing after thing to think Tim had it was gone, and then the Cope injury, but then we get Fred, and it's like, oh, okay, this is going to happen. Everybody starts to dream. We're going to make Sweet 16s, of course. And to get tested like we got tested, man, I forgot how bad it was. I went back and listened to our old show. I listened to one when we finally broke the 12-game losing streak, and I want to say 21 or 22, and we had stopped the podcast. We called it a pod protest. We said we're not doing it till they win a game, and we took off, I think, about 2 months. And I heard Sam talk about that moment in a press conference. He said, I remember when we lost 12 straight games. I was here. I was on that team, me of national media fame and of top 10, and I was on that team, and I saw this. And I think after 3 years of Fred, we were so beat down that it was like, it feels out of your hands, right? Like, this is never going to happen. I'm going to continue to do this, or it's going to break me at some point. Like, it's honestly, as silly as it sounds, I know it's a game. It's at some point going to be like, I can't justify this time and this energy anymore. And to think, not only would we get past that, not only would we get Troy, but we're going to get it with a team that they got it. You know what I mean, guys? Like, you saw that, like you said, like watching them, this team gets it from the get-go when we stepped in the arena and they came together at the free throw line. You know what I'm talking about? Before they went back in the locker room and came back out. If you weren't in OKC, every single player started pumping up the crowd. Like, from the moment go before the game started, they were a part of it and they knew what it meant and they made the loops and they knew what it meant to Kent. You talk about the 50, 60 years, how have we gone this long and not talked about Kent? Like they knew to go find Kent. And for it to happen that way, and then the even cherry on the top side, if you want to take it into Vandy, to then say, we're going to give you the thing you wanted, and we're going to give it in the best way possible, the team you are absolutely head over and heels in love with. And to put the journey that it's been over the last 5 years with Sam, and then to say, we're going to give you your March Madness moment. We're going to give you your thing that Sut and I said to each other so many times when we'd watch some March Madness game. We'd say, we literally couldn't do this. Like, we're not actually built for this. We are built for February 13th against Rutgers. And I'm like sweating and shaking because like, oh my God, we might pull this thing out at the under 5. Like I used to just think like physically we couldn't handle this. Like the eyeballs on us, the size of the moment and the scope. And then we're there and it's crazier than you could think. It's louder than you could think. There's more people than you could think. And to get that Frager moment is something you dream of and you literally think it's never going to happen because you have no control over it and it's never even sniffed the same vicinity, the same world of it. And to get that moment, I'll never forget the feeling I got when there was 8 seconds left and we brought the ball up and the feeling in that gym and the pandemonium after both of them. It's what can you say about Vandy and just that like cherry on topness of it all?
I'll speak for myself, I guess. Obviously the Frager shot is on, and we were kind of, the section we were at, he was kind of coming right at us and like seeing him finish that way, seeing kind of the lane open up when Price had the ball and kind of obviously seeing what Frager saw, being able to attack that is, I mean, I think everyone's going to remember that because what it meant. Before that, obviously the Sam Hoiberg putback coming down the stretch there when every point was like critical, same type of deal. He just massive amounts of space. The smallest guy slips in, does what he's done all season. He's like leading the team in rebounds somehow because he's 6 foot, which is generous. He's probably 5'11 and a half and he's rounded, but comes back and gets the putback. That, and then again, with the angle that I was sitting at with my buddies, like Tanner's last shot, like, I mean, from everybody's angle, it looked like that thing was golden, right? And just seeing that rim out, but then immediately looking at the Husker players, and they still all looked like so defeated from that because I just think it hadn't even registered yet. And then watching them obviously go celebrate with KP and the fans, just incredible. There's a lot of very special memories from that game, but those are definitely the ones that are going to stand out to me.
How about the wildness of that though? Like that moment to get the, like, I literally, this isn't a joke. I literally think I went into like a fight or flight response. And then that, like, I think Sut said he watched me like a 5 second. I'm sure we all had that of like, to be like, you've been hurt so much. I'm going to give you that extra little tease. But yeah, Blake, what stands out to you?
Oh man, I mean, the crazy part is like that last sequence, I truthfully blacked out. Like I don't remember a whole lot of it. And I was like right there. I mean, I was like feet from it happening. But the one thing I do remember to what you guys talked about was after Tyler Tanner's shot went in and out, I remember just looking around and sensing that like it felt like we lost. Like even though the shot didn't go in, like everybody was quiet and just like defeated for like 2 seconds. And then it was like, wait a minute, we won. Oh my God, we won, you know? And then it started. It was just such a unique, weird experience that way. Cause I remember personally standing up and going surrender Cobra, thinking like, oh my God, like we lost. And I was like, wait a minute. Oh my God, we won. Like it was the same surrender Cobra, but for different reasons. But the image that stuck in my head was oddly enough, way after the game ended. And again, like after all the media stuff ended, just going back out to the seat, and there were probably like 20 people tearing everything down and like 5 people writing stories. And I just sat at the seat that I was at in the game, and it was like dead silence. Like there was nobody talking and people just working. And like, you just kind of thought like, well, life goes on. And it's like, no. Like this means like, again, it just kind of captured to me, like nobody really understands how important or how meaningful this is besides Husker fans, because like you can talk about the history, you can talk about the experiences, but like Kell said, we were hoping to beat Rutgers in February to get to like maybe 12 wins on the year. Like you can't just say that and capture the emotion that goes with being in that kind of mental space with a program for 80 plus years. You know, not for us, but there are fans that waited 70 years. Some people unfortunately didn't even live to see a tournament win with this program, and to sit there and just like in silence and just kind of think back to all those weak, hard moments, you know, the Mykhailiuk 3 to not beat Kansas, the Copeland injury, the A&M loss in Memphis, which we saw you guys at, losing to Michigan by like 40 on Ty Webster's senior day at home to an empty gym, like thinking back to all those moments and just soaking it in. Like the thing I remember most is the empty gym. That's the crazy part about it, because it wrapped it all into a present that obviously will never, ever, ever stop giving for this program.
I do want to shout out the craziest thing too. After that shot, like, nobody was leaving either. Like, for 5-10 minutes, that place stayed packed. There was no like rush, like, oh, we won, let's go get to the bars. Like, everybody wanted to stay there in that moment, which again, I think speaks to the Husker fans and what we've been through and how special everybody realizes it is like, instead of thinking first shot, like, I need to go get a bunch of shots with my buddies to celebrate, I was like, I want to live here in this moment for as long as I can until security's telling me to get out, right? Because as fun as having drinks is and celebrating however you want to celebrate, that nothing's going to beat that moment and feeling that release again of like all this pent up emotion. And it happened with Troy, but the fact that Troy was a blowout maybe has something to do with it. But like these close wins where again, and so like we were playing with house money, but it didn't feel that way. Like it still mattered. Every inch, every second of that game still mattered. And I can only imagine what the next one, like against Iowa, is going to be like. That's going to be more absurd. So that's one thing I just wanted to touch on too, was it was very cool to see the arena just stick around to enjoy that moment.
Okay, one more subset of tweets, guys. Bodie Suckup's mustache said, I don't care what anyone has to say. I cried and hugged my friends and family. Close friend just recently lost a family member who was the biggest Nebrasketball fan. This team is doing something special for the state and all the fans. This program is in good hands with Fred. Husker Hoops 402 says, we've never lost a round of 32 game when I run into Mike at Fuzzy's Tacos. We did get recognized by some people, which is super cool. Tyler Worrell says, I can't believe we did it. Sweet 16. Matt Freetag said, moment of silence for the Vandy players who couldn't quiet us last night. That might have been a program-defining, narrative-changing, over-the-hump getting win. The stage, the story, the stakes, the drama, the intensity, the blow-for-blow shots, the fade, and then the finish. Just MQ said, Nebraska will finish 14th in the Big Ten. Nebraska, hold my beer. We are in the Sweet 16. And the winner of our sweatshirt giveaway for the round of 32 Sweet 16 securing win over Vanderbilt is Big Red Fred, who says, genuinely can't believe this, man. This whole season with y'all and this community has been unreal. We deserve this X. I mean, and I think that wraps it all up, right? And it's, a matter of fact, he added a video of Bryce hugging Juwan. And doesn't that just encapsulate everything, right? Everything that went into this, not just from the fan perspective, but the player perspective and all the foundational bricks that have been laid since the start of Fred Hoiberg's tenure, and going even further back with that, with, again, that tournament team in 2014 to kind of get that generation of Husker fans bought into Nebraska basketball. People forget that was the first NCAA tournament Nebraska had competed in over like 15 years. I mean, like there was a whole lost generation even from 97 to 2014. So, you know, it's just such a special moment. And again, I'm so glad that I get to hear Kell Sutt's response to, again, what was the most important win in Husker basketball history.
Yeah, I mean, it's all that. It's really cool to hear those tweets as well. I mean, I think you think about, you know, kind of like you said, Blake, in terms of what it means to stick with this. Like, my dad was the reason why I became a Nebraska basketball fan, the reason why we watched Nebraska basketball, Phillips 66, Big 12 on a Saturday morning for some awful Collier team or whatever. And then I remember him and I just like loving Doc Sadler's like 2017, maybe shortest team in the country, went 8-8 in the Big 12. And I thought like, oh my God, we made it. I think that was maybe the year before Sut and I went to college. And that's like basically how we like stepbrothers, like became best friends. Like, you think Doc's coach of the year? Like, me too. And then like, there we go. You had a friendship. And so to do that, you know, my dad passed away, and you have these things that, you know, think about him after the game. I look at Sut and you know, they'd be there with their best buddy and be able to give somebody a hug and think like, you know, it's the community. It's what this is. It's not the basketball. It's the community. It's the people. It's that vulnerability of giving it up and not getting it back over and over and over. And so it's just so cool to hear people's responses like that, and to get this thing that we never dreamed of. I will say this though, this has been great. But I would be remiss if I didn't say we still have some business to take care of, boys. Like there's the looking back and there's the insane, incredible, again, podcasting, but can't find the words to describe what that was. And then there's that part of the never got this far in my dreams of it's Monday night and there's more coming and it's Iowa. Like we are playing a basketball game to go to the Elite Eight with a squad that like we will ride or die with. I mean, to just take it quickly back to that Vandy game, that was Sut said it once when they brought the benches out at some point, first or second half, you know, timeout, and the student managers bring all the benches. Like, this is a heavyweight fight. He's like, those are the rings. They went back to their rings. It was blow. And like, we went toe to toe with a damn good basketball team. I'm sure you could see it on TV, but live, that is a big athletic quality. My God, like there are players on that team. And it was not fluky. We did not stay hot. We did not catch an update or an upset. We went blow for blow with an SEC great team that I think is better than a 5 seed. And we took their asses down, and I want it now. It's all water under the, it's all, we got it and we got our thing. Yeah, you can't take it away from us. But let's go. Let's get the energy on Thursday, and let's absolutely continue this thing, because the coolest part about this that we didn't know is that it keeps going. And now you guys get to talk about another game. You guys get to preview Bennett Sturt's, whatever 80 shots he's going to take on 2 for 47 shooting. And we are a good basketball team. We are better than them. And let's go show it. I want everybody's energy on Thursday, because this train keeps going. I'm incredibly thankful for you two. I'm so happy that when it had to stop for us, that people got to continue it and the joy got to continue it. And all your guys' listeners got to continue to have that outlet and continue to feel that community, because that's what we all wanted. That's why we started it. That's why I remember Twitter feeling so cool to me at first, because I'm like, oh my God, there are others of us. They're out there and they're watching this game that I don't think anybody else cares about. And you can't, like you said, Blake, you can't buy that. You can't go back and purchase that. You had to do it. You had to do it over and over and over for no reason to get this. And so let's keep it going.
It's been an amazing story, but like, what a way to keep the story going, to make an Elite Eight by beating your biggest in-conference rival. Like, could it be written up any better? A team that they've played 2 absolute rock fights against in the season, and now you get a chance to go to the Elite Eight by playing them one more time. Doesn't get any better than this. I mean, it does not get any better than this. I think, like the podcast boys said, this team gets this fan base, and I'm sure they're feeling the exact same way we are now. They're saying, let's keep this thing rolling. And Fred says it after every game, satisfied. You can bleep me out in post-production, Blake, but no, okay? Because they want it probably more than any of us do. And that's saying a lot, because we've been begging on our knees for this for so long, but this team gets this fan base. And maybe that's a reason that they're so successful, is because they really embrace what this fan base has been and what they've been waiting for. And they take all that energy and they put it out there on the floor for 40 minutes.
Just a fantastic spirited discussion. So glad that Kell Sutt had some time to join us here for our Sweet 16 preview. If you would like to participate on this segment of the show, make sure to follow us on Twitter at Scarlet Shoe Pod and reply to our tweet at the final buzzer of every game, asking Huskers fans what your thoughts were on each win and each loss. After each win, we pick our favorites, share them on the show, and we pick one lucky winner to win a sweatshirt courtesy of the podcast. Thanks again to Kell Sutt for joining us. We'll preview the Hawkeyes for the 3rd time this season on the other side of the break.
If you're all in on Nebraska sports, you've got to check out 2cmerch.com. They've got Nebraska-themed apparel for all sports, with design rooted in heritage, deep meaning, and true fans in mind. Whether it's game day or you're showing your loyalty year-round, 2C Merch has you covered, so make sure to visit them at twocmerch.com, because great fans deserve great shirts.
You are listening to the Scarlet Shoot-Around Podcast.
Welcome back into the Scarlet Shoot-Around Podcast, presented as always by our title sponsor, Tax and Business Consultants. Make sure to visit them this tax season right around the corner at www.taxandbusinessconsultants.com. This segment, though, Mike, sponsored by our friends over at 2C Merch. Dusty and his squad have put together a fantastic clothing company that, Mike, I saw all kinds of shirts that 2C has created in regards to Nebraska basketball, creators of the Hoy Ball moniker, very special stuff. And although Nebraska basketball season may be coming to a close here pretty soon, hopefully in Indianapolis, if everything goes perfectly, there's stuff for fans of every sport, including baseball, volleyball, football, and anything else you could imagine. Make sure to visit them online at www.2cmerch.com, Mike.
Yeah, again, very cool to see their stuff out and about. Saw plenty of Hoy Ball stuff out in Oklahoma City. It's really being a countrywide thing now. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be 2C Merch down in Houston for this upcoming, hopefully 2-game stretch. So yeah, go check them out. They have amazing stuff. Again, not just basketball, but any sport you're interested in the Husker fandom, and they got you covered.
Thanks again to Dusty and his team over at 2C Merch for sponsoring us here on the Scarlet Shoot-Around Podcast. Okay, Mike, let's get into it. The Iowa Hawkeyes, who are 23-12 on the year after going 10-10 in the conference. They're currently number 27 in the net. So this would be a hypothetical Q1 neutral game for the Huskers. They were picked 8th in the preseason at Big Ten poll while finishing 9th at the end of the season. That said, they are actually 6th in the Big Ten in the KenPom predictive ratings. Head coach Ben McCollum is in his first year at Iowa and his second overall as a D1 head coach with a career record of 54-16 for a 77% win percentage. He has made the NCAA tournament in both of his 2 D1 seasons, but this in the Sweet 16 is the farthest he has ever been. Notable results for the Hawkeyes this season: in the 2 games they played Nebraska, they defeated them at home 57-52. They lost to Nebraska in Lincoln in overtime 84-75. In the NCAA tournament, they've beat number 39 Clemson 67-61 in the first round after shocking the world and beating 1 seed number 5 overall Florida in the second round 73-72. Mike, the Hawkeyes are 25th nationally, 10th in the conference in offense, 31st nationally, 5th in the conference on defense. Has anything changed with the Iowa Hawkeye offense?
The only thing that's changed tonight is that me and the group that we traveled with to OKC have officially coined a term for what they do, and we call it mud ball. You know, never wrestle a pig in mud because they're just having fun. That's what Iowa does. They drag you into the mud, and it gets disgusting, and it's slow, and that has not changed, Blake, as they are 363rd in average possession length on offense and 361st in the nation in average tempo. I mean, nothing has changed as far as that goes. Again, this is still a very efficient offense when you look at it as they're 25th nationally in offensive efficiency. But the biggest key for me, Blake, so far and what they've done in the NCAA tournament is the fact that their rebounding looks to have taken a step up. They weren't necessarily known for being a great offensive rebounding team, 172nd in the nation, but against Clemson, they pulled down 15 rebounds. And then against Florida, who is a fantastic rebounding team, they won the offensive rebounding battle 10-9. So that's going to be a point of emphasis for the Huskers. It seems like the Hawkeyes have figured something out this late in the season to get their offensive rebounding numbers up.
Yeah, Mike, and everybody knows what the Iowa Hawkeyes want to do on offense. They want to give the ball to Bennett Sturts and let him try to make some magic happen. The Iowa Hawkeyes are not a great shooting team, ranking 11th in the conference in three-point percentage at 33%, while shooting 29% from deep in the tournament thus far. They are much better inside, though, Mike, as they're 13th nationally in two-point percentage at 59%, while they are hitting 61% of their twos in the NCAA tournament. They generally take good care of the ball, ranking 83rd nationally and 9th in the conference in offensive turnover percentage at 15%. And they're 41st nationally in offensive steal percentage at 8.1%. They don't get to the free throw line much, but are a good free throw shooting team, ranking 164th nationally and 16th in the conference in free throw rate, but 39th nationally and 5th in the conference in free throw percentage at 76.6%. As you look to their offense, Mike, it all starts, as mentioned earlier, by point guard number 14, Bennett Sturts, a 6'4 senior, averaging 20 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists on 48% shooting, 37% from deep, while averaging 1.5 steals per game. In the 2 games against Nebraska, Mike, in Iowa City, he went for 25, 2-2, and in Lincoln, 11, 5-3. He's actually scored under his season average in both NCAA tournament games, Mike, as he's only 3 of 19 from deep in the 2 tournament games the Hawkeyes have played.
Yeah, Sturts has struggled immensely in the tournament so far. And even looking back to the last game at PBA, the Huskers did a great job defending him. In 45 minutes of game time, he only had 11 points on 4 of 10 shooting. The Hawkeyes really relied on 2 secondary scorers in that last game against the Huskers to get them to overtime, namely Cooper Koch, the freshman forward, who in that game at PBA had 18 points. So far this season, he's averaging 8 points, 3 rebounds, and 1 assist, shooting 44% from the field, 40% from beyond the arc, and 82% from the free throw line. Again, in the last matchup against the Huskers, he really was their lone spark in that second half, as he went 6 of 13 from the field, Blake, and 6 of 12 from beyond the arc. That has continued in the NCAA tournament, as he had 12 points against Florida on 4 of 7, shooting from the field, 4 of 6 from beyond the arc. And while he wasn't very impressive on the offensive end against Clemson, he had a great defensive game, as he had a plus-minus of +7, which was second on the team. So Cooper Koch has really come into his own again as a freshman. He's playing a lot of minutes now, and he's playing them at a high level. Another guy the Huskers are going to have to be aware of based on their last matchup is Cale Combs, number 11, the guard, who had 18 points on 7 of 14 shooting, 2 of 5 from beyond the arc, while adding 2 free throws. Blake, he's not a great three-point shooter. Obviously, he hit the big 3 at the end of regulation to push that game into overtime. Again, he's not known as a shooter, Blake, as he is shooting 35% from beyond the arc, but it's not on very good volume. It's on 17 of 49. So far this season, Combs is averaging 6 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 assists, shooting 49% from the field. As I mentioned, 35% from beyond the arc, and is shooting 84% from the free throw line.
Continuing down the list of contributors for Iowa, you look to small forward number 6, Tavion Banks, a 6'7" senior averaging 10, 5, and 1 on 53% shooting, 45% from beyond the arc while averaging a steal per game. In Iowa City, he went for 6 points, 10 rebounds, and in Lincoln, he went for 12 points and 7 rebounds. He actually led the team with 20 points, going 5 of 10 from the free throw line in Iowa's upset of the Florida Gators, and he's a very fantastic rebounder. You look further down their lineup, Mike, center number 3, Cam Manyow, a 6'9" junior, averaging 7, 5, and 1 on 64% shooting from the field without a three-point attempt this year. Huskers have kept him in check, holding him to 2 points in Iowa City and 6 points in Lincoln, as he is a defense-first 5-man, a solid rebounder who ranks 6th in the conference in steal percentage. Thus far, in the 2 games Iowa has played, Mike, in the tournament, he only has 5 field goal attempts, but 8 offensive rebounds.
Yeah, as you said, not necessarily known as a scoring big, but somebody the Huskers are going to have to be aware of down low, as he is a great rebounder and he can definitely hurt you. As I mentioned, Iowa seemed to have picked up their offensive rebounding, so I think it's going to be an even bigger point of emphasis for the Huskers than it has been in the previous 2 matchups. Blake, the last guy I want to touch on is number 7, Alvaro Fulgaris, the hero in that Florida game as he hit the game winner with a couple seconds left from beyond the arc. He really is known more as a shooter, Blake, as he's attempted more field goal attempts from beyond the arc than inside it at 304 3-point attempts versus 197 2-point shot attempts. So far in the season, Fulgaris is averaging 9 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists, shooting 49% from the floor, 33% from beyond the arc, and 77% from the free throw line.
Turning to the Hawkeye defense, they're very similar to Vanderbilt in that they thrive in creating turnover havoc, ranking 15th nationally and 2nd in the Big Ten in defensive turnover percentage at 20.5%. That number boosted by being 2nd in the conference in steal percentage and 1st in the Big Ten in non-steal percentage at 9.1%. In creating havoc, though, Mike, they do foul like crazy as they're 289th nationally and last in the Big Ten in defensive free throw rate at a whopping 41.5%, just a ridiculously high number. If they don't find turnovers, Mike, they are very weak defensively as they're 251st nationally in effective field goal percentage, 162nd nationally, 12th in the conference in defensive three-point percentage, 283rd nationally, and 15th in the conference in defensive two-point percentage. So again, the Hawkeyes, if they are not able to find any turnovers, Mike, very, very, very gettable.
Yeah, absolutely right. And again, you look at this upset over Florida in big part because they were able to force 11 turnovers for the Gators in that one. You mentioned it, and I think it's a great comparison, is this is a much like that Vandy squad. Not necessarily the biggest team, not necessarily the greatest defending, especially inside, but if they can turn you over, they can absolutely punish you there. The fact that they're very weak inside is reflected by the fact that they rank 329th and 17th in the Big Ten in defensive block percentage. So if you get inside, not too much to worry about as far as getting a clean shot up, Blake. You look at their components and what they typically give up, they're kind of middle of the road as far as defending the three-point line. They do an average job of it as teams are attempting 40% of their three-point shots from beyond the arc, which is right on the D1 average. As Blake mentioned, though, they do foul a lot, and so that could be a huge key, especially if we see some tighter officiating like we've seen in the NCAA tournament compared to what we are used to seeing in Big Ten play.
Ken Palm projects a 69-66 Nebraska win, whereas Bart Torvik projects a 67-66 Nebraska win. But Mike, the same as we did in our previous episode, we do have an official spread for this game, and it is right now Nebraska -1.5. I'm 19-15 on the year. You are 12-22, and the fans are 21-12-1. As a record 95% of fans took Nebraska +2 against Vanderbilt. Mike, is Nebraska covering this spread and moving on to the Elite Eight in the NCAA tournament?
Well, I'll tell you what, Blake, it's really interesting because obviously these teams have played twice. The old adage of it's hard to beat the same team twice, I don't know if that really plays here because both teams have won one. So last I checked, one team has to beat the other team twice here. Looking back on the games, that game in Iowa City, again, credit to Iowa. They did a great job of forcing the Huskers to play the game that Iowa wanted to play. When you look back at the game in PBA, I think the Huskers did a much better job getting the tempo where they wanted there. In fact, it took a big run by Iowa down the stretch to push that game to overtime as the Huskers had that one in the hand for pretty much the entire second half until, again, Cooper Koch started hitting some big threes and clawed the Hawkeyes back into it. I think the fact that Bennett Sturts has had a poor NCAA tournament so far is a kind of a point of emphasis. Again, the Huskers did a great job defending him last time they met in PBA, and I think his struggles so far this postseason will continue in this one. The biggest question, again, is the fact that Iowa's offensive rebounding numbers have improved and the fact that they are great at forcing turnovers. But if the Huskers can get out in transition, if they can take care of the ball and they can shore up the rebounding, again, don't need to necessarily win the rebounding battle, but keep it respectable within, I would say, 2 to 3 offensive rebounds specifically of the Hawkeyes. I think the Huskers walk away from this one, Blake, into their first ever Elite Eight game, as I have the Huskers winning this one. Again, in a very close, tight game. No OT necessary this time, though. Huskers take it 75-69.
And Mike picks the Huskers to move on to the Elite Eight. And Mike, what a story, as bitter rivals that split the regular season series now meet in the Sweet 16. And as mentioned, the stakes couldn't be higher. Iowa tries to play their havoc defense by minimizing possessions and magnifying other teams' mistakes. The biggest change for the rubber match, Mike, is that the whistle will be tighter than what we saw with Big Ten referees, and that should spell bad news for the foul-heavy Hawkeyes. I think the Huskers have rediscovered their offense just in time, as I also will call for their first ever Elite Eight appearance, beating Iowa 71-65. That is our Iowa preview, and we will get you out of here on the other side of the break.
If you or someone you love has been hiding their smile, struggling with dentures, or putting off dental implants because of cost, this one's for you. Main Street Dental in El Dorado, Kansas, just outside of Wichita, is offering exclusive discounts for Nebrasketball fans, and they're even willing to help cover a hotel stay, despite being about 4 hours away. Dr. Nolan Andrews and his team are considered one of the top full arch implant centers in the region, specializing in full arch, all on X, and single dental implants. If you've been saying someday, or you know a family member or friend struggling to smile or eat, tell them to call Main Street Dental at 316-321-4222 and ask about the Nebrasketball Fan Implant Program.
You are listening to the Scarlet Shoot-Around Podcast.
Welcome back into the Scarlet Shoot-Around Podcast, presented as always by our title sponsor, Tax and Business Consultants. Make sure to visit them this upcoming tax season for any tax planning, business consulting, or payroll needs you may have at www.taxandbusinessconsultants.com. Our outro segment, though, Mike, sponsored by our friend Nolan Andrews over at Main Street Dental in El Dorado, Kansas, specializing in dental implants, but providing a full suite of dental work. If you need to contact them for yourself or any family members, reach out to them at 316-321-4222. And make sure to mention the special Nebraska basketball fan discount before heading down to El Dorado, Kansas. Mike, this is a podcast we couldn't have even imagined recording before we started this season, as we are now on episode 35. Usually that would mean that maybe the Huskers had a good run in the Crown, or maybe they entered the NIT and had a run. No, this Nebraska team has done nothing but set some of the biggest history this program has ever seen in reaching not just their first ever tournament win, but their first ever Sweet 16 appearance. And Mike, what a storyline it is with the opponent.
Script writers couldn't come up with it any better. This is, like Blake said, on the level of movie type stuff. Again, a chance to beat one of your biggest rivals for a chance to move on in the NCAA tournament to the regional final, a chance to be one game away from cutting down some nets and advancing to the Final Four is an incredible opportunity. I think the Huskers have really looked great, Blake, and they've handled pressure all season, so I see no reason why that stops now in Houston. And most of all, I'm really excited to see what the fan turnout is going to look like. I won't be there this time. I'll be watching from my living room, but I'm sure the Husker fans in large will travel and have another great environment down there to cheer on the Huskers.
Make sure to follow the show on Apple or Spotify. Take a quick second to rate us 5 stars and share us with a Nebraska ball friend. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Scarlet Shoe Pod for giveaways, short-form videos, in-game tweets, bracketology updates, and as always, a chance to be featured on the show. Finally, visit us online at scarletshootaround.com for all podcasts, game stories, travel journals, and if you'd like to support us, our very own merch store. Mike, the Huskers have made history, but the crazy part is it doesn't have to end there as they take on the Iowa Hawkeyes in the Sweet 16 here in Houston, Texas. And Mike, the only way reaching your program's first ever Elite Eight can be sweeter is ending your rival's season. And the Huskers have the opportunity to do that here again in Houston on Thursday night as they take on the 9-seed Hawkeyes, looking to continue their historic postseason run in March. For myself, Blake, and co-host Mike, go Big Red.
Go Big Red, baby.
In one shining moment, you reach for the sky. In one shining moment, you knew, yeah. In one shining moment, you're willing to try. In one shining